don't see their karma. Yes, that's what we're going to be talking about in this live video. Before I begin, please hit the thumbs up button down below to help the YouTube algorithm to get this message out there to other victims and survivors who may need to see it. And also hit subscribe, click all notifications, and then you will be notified when I go live in the future. And if you would like to book a one-on-one with me, just go to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. Now let's get into this very deep, juicy topic. We will be going deep into this. And it's something that people don't talk much about because, I hate to say it, but unfortunately, there are a lot of videos on YouTube where people just kind of tell the victims and the survivors what they want to hear. Now, I'm not going to be doing that in this video. I am just going to be giving it to you straight and telling you exactly how it is. I don't believe in just telling people what they want to hear so that we can all just live in denial together and just paint this fairy tale picture of how we want things to be. Because I don't think that's helpful. I don't think it's good for anyone. So on this channel, we speak the truth, whatever that truth may be. And that's what we're going to dive into in this one. The real truth, the raw truth of how it actually is from my research and personal experience. And keep in mind that I have been researching this disorder for the past 6 years, pretty much every day. And I do have a lifetime of experience in this as well. And what I've found is that actually narcissists do not see their karma. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are saying that they do, and they recognize it, they make that connection. But from my experience and my research, they actually don't. And they actually don't even believe in karma. They don't believe that it exists. They don't believe in God. All they really believe in is their false character, their own lies, their illusions, their false reality, in which they are God. They are the supreme ruler. They're in control of everything. So there's no room for karma in their world. So they're never going to see it. They're never going to make the connection. Although, whether they believe in it or not, I mean, I'm saying that they don't believe in it and that they don't see it. That does not impact or affect the fact that karma does exist. It's still going to be there even while they don't believe in it and they don't see it. That doesn't change anything. But they will never know that their pain and sadness is the result of their past actions. And the reason why is because they're never going to look at themselves and think they're anything less than perfect. They're never going to see that they made a fault or mistake. They're always going to blame the victim and blame everyone else. And that really is their karma. That they don't self-reflect. They can't look at themselves and accept their own flaws and imperfections. So that means that their entire life is fake. Because they've been gaslighting themselves their entire lives. Wearing a mask, pretending they're okay. While deep down they hate themselves and they're dying inside. But they wear a mask, they created a false persona. that doesn't care about any of that. So they can never be vulnerable. They can only play the victim and blame everyone else, but they can't ever go within and accept that maybe they're not so perfect after all. Maybe they have made mistakes. Maybe they did mess things up, and that's why they can't feel. It's why they can't enjoy anything. No matter how many partners, houses, or cars they have, it's never going to mean anything to them. They're never going to be grateful. They're never going to experience love or an emotional connection. And the reason why is because that requires vulnerability. Well, we have to go within and accept our own shortcomings, something they can't do. They have to act like they're untouchable, like nothing you do can affect them. And that is because of their ego, this false sense of superiority, as though you're always the problem, you're the one who is crazy. Well, we don't do that. Instead, we do look at ourselves. And in fact, we often look at ourselves first before we ever look at them. We question if we're bad, if we're crazy, if we're the narcissists. Because we can self-reflect. And we can self-reflect because we do have a true self to reflect on. We have a true identity. Something that keeps us in check. And it causes us to question ourselves. And it's what they play on a lot, because they don't ever want to go within themselves. And this is why they can't feel. It's why they can't enjoy anything. And yet they still have these addictions where they're constantly needing something to complete them, where they will cheat, lie, and steal, and do whatever they have to do to get what they want. But even when they get it, they're still miserable. And then they always want more. They always want more because they're very egotistical. And the ego always wants more because they never check themselves. They never look within. They never take accountability. They never accept blame. So they're suffering every day. And they project that suffering onto you. Because it is our suffering that makes us question ourselves. And if we did something wrong. So they just run away from it. They act like they're living this perfect life. They're in denial. This is why they never see their karma. And it looks like everything is fine. Like they're not going through anything. But the closest person to them is always seeing it. When you were with them, you may remember their hour-long monologues where they were playing the victim, blaming everyone, complaining about their lives. They were always stressed. They had a low threshold for anything demanding, especially when it comes to close relationships. And it's because they have no inner sense of value. They have nothing to give, not even to themselves. They have to get it from other people, but it's never enough and they are never satisfied. And this is their karma. Because they chose the wrong path. They chose to blame everyone else instead of accepting themselves and their faults, flaws, and weaknesses. And because of that, they will never see their karma, but they will feel it every day of their lives. While having to see other people like ourselves, empaths who are actually happy, even after everything they did to us. And it will fascinate them, but they will never understand how or why. Even after they may have cheated on you, lied to you, stolen your money or possessions, damaged your property, started a smear campaign against you, isolated you, and turned everyone against you. And you may have been left with no house and no car. And you may have even had your kids taken away from you. But you still find a reason to smile. You still have things to be happy about. Even if it's just for being alive, which is something they will never have. And they won't ever question why. They will just look at you and feel envy and jealousy. They will obsess over you. They will stalk and harass you. And they will do anything they can to bring you down because they're outwardly focused. They have to affect people and the external world to temporarily distract themselves from their inner turmoil. Something that they have to do for the rest of their lives, like medicating a sickness, only it's a condition that never goes away. And they can never accept that they have it. They have to live the rest of their lives in denial, while it's killing them from the inside and it destroys all of their relationships. They can never find happiness in anything because they sold their souls, so they have nothing within. It's just a void and it needs more and more, but they can never feel fulfilled. Well, it's so easy for you. You don't even need anything to be happy. But they have to wear this mask and live out this facade, all because they don't want to accept that maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're not perfect. Maybe they've made mistakes. But you know what? If they did that, they would heal. They would finally begin to experience true happiness, love, and connection. And this could just be from one relationship or situation in their past, which they're still holding on to. They're holding on to these grudges and resentment when they just need to let it go and take accountability. Accept their part in it, otherwise it will forever haunt them. And it will be the reason why they never find happiness. It will always affect their quality of life. And they will never experience long-term success in anything. But they don't look within, they don't take accountability because they're on the opposite side of the spectrum. But as empaths or codependents, we blame and question ourselves before anyone else. This is why we're highly sensitive and we feel deeply and intensely, because we are connected to ourselves. We have a self, they don't. So all they can do is blame us because there's nothing there. All they have is a void. It's just darkness, inner turmoil, which they can easily project onto us because we feel everything. We respond, we agree to it, we accept it, which just perpetuates their curse. Because as long as we are there to take it, they never have to feel it. So they continue to live in denial, never taking accountability, never self-reflecting, never feeling anything, never having anything of value or meaning to their lives, just going through life on autopilot, never questioning anything, just living in a bubble, never seeing what life is really like, how beautiful it is, how special people are, because it's just all about them. And they have to put their internal condition onto everyone else. They have to hold everyone else accountable. So there's always all of this drama and chaos, arguments and fights, never any peace. And how they treat us is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves. If you want to know how they're feeling inside, just look at how they're treating you. Their demons in their heads never let them rest. They're restless, full of anxiety. They're always on edge. They're always seeking revenge and looking to bring people down because it's the only thing that brings them joy. And even then, it's not really joy. It's a temporary distraction, a temporary relief from their pain. which they have to seek for the rest of their lives. Because this pain never goes away, and they will always be that way. Just remember how they treated you. They didn't care. They didn't check on you. They didn't try to correct it. They didn't care about how you feel. Because they don't care about how they feel. They're disconnected from their emotions. They're always miserable. This is how you know they're never going to be happy. They're never going to find satisfaction in anything because they didn't care about you. They were fine leaving you to yourself, leaving you to deal with everything on your own. They didn't care about you because they don't even care about themselves. This is how they're this way their entire lives. They never change. They never question themselves. They never hold themselves accountable. That's what love is. Looking at ourselves to see what is wrong. Accepting our faults, our flaws and mistakes. But they hate themselves, so they turn away from it all. They push away their own reflection. They don't want to see it. They don't want to know. But if they cared about their own mental, emotional, and psychological health, they would immediately think about and care about you. As within, so without. A person can't care about themselves and love themselves and not care about and love everyone and everything else. Especially if it's someone they've already connected with. But they never connected to you. Because they're not connected to themselves. They have no self. So they treat themselves how they treat you. And they treat you how they treat themselves. People treat others how they treat themselves. And narcissists abandon themselves. They neglect their own mental, emotional, and psychological health. They project their insecurities onto you and then mock and ridicule you. They deflect their shame onto you and make you feel bad about yourself. But all of these things are about themselves and not about you. They're harming themselves through you by using you as a vessel because they hate themselves. Everything they do is an expression of their own self-hatred. If they loved and cared about themselves, they would immediately go within to give themselves the love and attention that they need, instead of seeking to harm you. But these negative emotions are contagious, and if you're not careful, you can get caught up in this cycle of being vengeful and seeking relief from your pain through hurting people and putting them down. It's not healthy, and it will hurt you more than it hurts them in the long run. So be aware of it. Check yourself so that it doesn't become a habit or an addiction where you're having to hurt people just to distract yourself from your own pain and self-loathing. Narcissists have been doing this their entire lives, running from themselves. It's why you can't even have a normal conversation with them. They always make it about themselves, their grandiosity, and how they're so special or they're the victim, and you're to blame for everything. Because they can't accept themselves. And while they may not see their karma, because they don't believe in it, it's still there, it still exists, and it's still going to have an effect on them. It's been having an effect on them their entire lives. It's why they're always so mad. It's why they're always so miserable. Because everything you think you're doing to them, they're really just doing it to themselves by not going within and self-reflecting. They're shame-based people who are doing everything they can to avoid reflecting on their shame. So they are essentially their own karma. Because by doing that, it perpetuates it. It keeps it coming back on them. Because they keep pushing it away. They keep pushing away the true reflection of themselves. They keep putting it onto everyone else. They disown these parts of themselves that they don't like and assign them to you. And they get you to identify with that. When really what they need to do is they need to take a good look at themselves. They need to accept their own faults, flaws, mistakes, imperfections, everything that they've done wrong. Because as humans, this is just what we're meant to do. If something goes wrong, even when it's not our fault, even when it had nothing to do with us, as empaths, what do? We check ourselves. We question ourselves, we doubt ourselves. And sometimes we might even take responsibility. But if we do that and it's not our fault, then that is wrong. We're too far on the other side of the spectrum to where we're taking responsibility for things that aren't even our fault. While they're getting away with it, they're running away with it. And by doing that, that's their karma. By avoiding accountability for their own actions and evading the consequences. That's their karma, because they're running away from the true reflection of themselves and instead living in denial and living a lie. And by doing that, they've just sold their souls. They're never going to be happy. They're never going to find fulfillment in anything. Whereas for us, we're highly sensitive. Because in any situation, the first thing we do is look within. We question ourselves, we doubt ourselves. We're checking in with ourselves. That's what makes us highly sensitive. That's what allows us to feel, to experience the amazing, beautiful things in life. That's what allows us to do that. And while narcissists, all they experience is misery, suffering, and pain every day of their lives, because they refuse to take accountability for their actions and they evaded the consequences. So yeah, it looks like they've moved on. They're doing well. They're living their best lives. They may be making more money now. They may have mansions around the world, a fleet of super yachts, a fleet of private jets. But they're still miserable inside. And they can't enjoy any of it. Because deep down inside, they know that they've done wrong. And not only do they know that, but then they're covering up with denial. They're running away from it. They're running away from themselves. And that's where their true power is. But they're denying it. They're running away from it. They're passing the blame onto someone else. But when a narcissist does finally accept it, if they do, in the rare case where it's like, okay, I'm not perfect, I made mistakes, they accept themselves, they don't run from it. I mean, I don't even know if that's even possible, because how can you reflect on a self that isn't even there? But let's just assume for now that it is possible. If they were to do that, you would immediately know. And you would know because if they began to reflect on themselves and care about themselves, they would immediately reflect on you, because you're associated with that denial of their own blame and wrongdoing and evading the consequences. So they would immediately feel compelled to come back to you and to make things right. So you would immediately know. But instead, what do? Because they're in denial and they reject themselves, they might come back to you, but then it's only to blame you or to sabotage what you've got going on, to sustain this false narrative and to sustain their false self. This is why they watch and observe you. It's why they stalk and harass you. Because they need this constant confirmation that something is wrong with you and not them. And they're always just scanning you, looking for things to be wrong with you or something in your life, so that they can blame you and see you as this evil villain. So then they can keep denying themselves. Instead of self-reflecting, go within and accepting who they actually are. That's why they continue to watch and observe you. That's why they're stalking you. Instead of coming back to make amends, they're not going to do that because they're running from themselves. And they're running from themselves by seeking distractions or by focusing on you. So they will never actually see their karma. They will never actually make the connections between what they're experiencing every day, their misery and suffering, to what they did to you, what they did wrong. They're never going to see that because they don't self-reflect. They don't look within. If they looked within, they would see it. They would immediately know that certain actions in their lives are connected to how they're feeling right now. And then they would feel compelled to make amends, to make things right. Because then that would make them feel better. But what happens when a person denies and rejects themselves and their faults or wrongdoings, and they don't take accountability? Instead, what they're going to feel is they're going to feel compelled to sustain this false narrative, play the victim, and continue blaming you. Meanwhile, it's making them sick. It's making them feel more miserable inside. And they're just getting worse. They're becoming even more bitter and resentful with age, because they keep holding on to this grudge instead of just letting it go. If they were to let it go and look within and take accountability, then they could finally heal and things will be resolved. So this is why they're like that. This is why they behave the way that they do. Because they can't let things go. They can't accept that it's them. This is why they don't self-reflect. And it's why they don't see their karma. Anyway, I'd like to hear from you as well. Let me know in the live chat right now what you think about what I've said here. Because I know it's quite controversial and it's something you may not have heard before. But if you look at it, the narcissist in your life, it's clear. They don't see their karma. But they do feel it. You can see it in their actions. The way that they talk, you can see that they feel it. They feel it every minute of every day. They're never at rest, they're never happy. But let me know what you think down below in the live chat. Let me know if you have any questions. I will read them out and respond to them. But just know that yes, they are suffering every day. And the more that they run from themselves and deny accountability and evade the consequences, the more entitled they feel to continue with that behavior, and the more that it just perpetuates their own suffering. And they get worse. This is why when narcissists get older, they become even more miserable, even more bitter and resentful. They hold grudges for life. This is why. Rebel Savage asks, is greed a thing for narcissists? Yes, it most definitely is. because they're constantly seeking external stimulation from their addictions and escapism, anything to help them to numb the pain. But it's like a drug. So the dose that they had in the beginning, after some time, it no longer has the same effect. So they've got to keep increasing the dose. And in the beginning, maybe it did make them feel some sense of euphoria, for them at least. But then with time, that feeling just begins to go away. And then it's just to distract them so that they can feel a temporary relief from their pain. This is why they become more and more greedy, because they're needing more and more to get the same high that they had in the beginning. But even then, it's never like it was initially. Laura says they hold on to things we forgot about that happened years ago, and they want us to pay every day they are sad or angry about something. Their energy is miserable. Definitely, that's right, Laura. They will hold on to things that happened 10, 20 years ago, and they will talk about it like it happened just yesterday, as though you might have made a little mistake back then and you're still fully responsible and to blame, and you're this villain, like it was something you just did yesterday, because they're stuck in the past. Their false reality, it's like they can just shift timelines whenever they choose to. And it's because they don't look within, they don't take accountability. It goes back to everything I've just said here. And that's why they hold on to it, they hold grudges, because they never relieve that pain. They never resolve the trauma. So they can hold on to things no matter how much time goes by. And that continues to eat away at them. And it's why they're so miserable. Amira Assad asks, do they actually get significant consequences on their life? Most definitely they do. I mean, you just got to remember when you were with them, just remember what they were like. Remember how they were arguing, fighting with you every day. They could never leave things alone. They were always miserable, blaming you for everything. They were never happy. They're going to be that way their entire lives, and it's just going to get worse. With the more failures and disappointments that they experience, where they're just blaming everyone else, never looking at themselves, constantly living in denial and having to see themselves as being perfect, flawless, never making a mistake. You can never experience life fully and enjoy life with that mindset. You have to look at yourself, as we do as empaths. I know I do. Of course, I look at myself sometimes and I think, wow, I made a mistake. I did something wrong. I'm not perfect. I have flaws, I have imperfections. I'm not all good. I'm not this angelic character. I've done things wrong to people. Sometimes I have to make amends. I have to make things right. When we self-reflect and we actually look at ourselves within, because we have a self within, when we do that, we connect to ourselves, then we can connect to life, to other people, and have this connection. But they can't do that. Or rather, they don't want to do it, or they don't have a self to connect to. So instead, they live in denial and they can never connect to the world. They can never connect to other people. They can never connect to their own emotions, to feel happiness, joy, love. They never get to have that experience. That comes from connecting to ourselves within. You've got to connect to yourself first. You have to be present. If you're not present, if you're not there, and I don't mean physically, I mean mentally, where you have this self-awareness, you can't experience joy or happiness in anything. And yet they have to look and watch other people who have a lot less and they could be happy. It just frustrates them. It makes them miserable. They begin to hate everyone and everything, and they become even more bitter and resentful with age. Because it's like, when are they going to get theirs? They're seeing everyone else. Maybe they're not even having things. I mean, the narcissist could have everything, but they just still see that people are happy. Or even then, it looks like they're happy, and narcissists are idealizing it. I mean, even then, that's enough just to irritate them. Because I guess that's a part of it as well, is maybe at some level they do understand and they do see it. They recognize that we can be happier than they can. Like, they can't really experience happiness or positive emotions. They can't experience the happiness and joy like we can, because they're so disconnected from themselves. So they don't get to have those experiences like we can. Sorry, I got a bit of a cold, but I'm going to try to continue on. But yeah, those positive emotions that we have, that laughter, that fun, that joy, all of these things, they come from being connected to ourselves, connected to our own emotions, because we have a self within. They don't have that. They don't experience genuine positive emotions, true happiness, love, and joy. They experience bitterness or resentment. That's why they're always playing the victim. Or it's this grandiosity of how they're so much happier than you. They're living their best lives. I mean, when you're really happy, you don't have to do that. You're not trying to outdo or surpass anyone. It's not a competition. When you're genuinely happy and content, you don't care about what someone else has or what they're doing. Or if they're happier than you are, it just doesn't even matter. It doesn't even cross your mind, because you're centered within yourself, within your own happiness. But they're never going to have that. They're always going to be envious and jealous. It's always going to be a competition. And they're never going to see it. They're never going to make that connection. They're never going to see their karma. And it's going to continue to perpetuate it. They're going to keep making the same mistakes, never learning from it. They're never going to be happy. And this is why they're going to keep coming back after you, watching, stalking, and harassing you, trying to bring you down, trying to make you miserable just like them. Because they already know they're never going to be happy. They've tried that already so many times. Achieving so many mindless possessions. Trying to make lots of money. Conning people, stealing. Never got them what they wanted, never made them happy. And yet they see it's not like that for you. They constantly compare themselves to you. So to conclude, yes, they don't see their karma. They don't realize it. They don't know what it is. They don't believe in it. But regardless of that, it's still there. It still exists. And they still feel it. And their bitterness, their resentment, is just going to continue to get worse. They're just going to be even more miserable as they age. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you. And if it was, please hit that thumbs up button down below. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit subscribe and click all notifications to be notified when I upload a new video. If you would like to donate, show your support to our community, you could donate by leaving a super chat in the live chat, a super thanks in the comment section, or by going to my PayPal. It is paypal.me/Narc Survivor. If you would like to book a coaching session with me, you can go to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. And also follow me on Instagram, where I have new pictures and videos of my travels, which I upload every day on there. It is Narc Survivor YouTube on Instagram. Thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor live video. I appreciate you all, and I look forward to speaking with you in another one very soon.